You don't win battles by swinging blindly. You win by knowing exactly where to strike and when. So ask yourself, are you living by strategy or reacting to every hit life throws at you? Because emotion without direction is chaos. And chaos never built empires. Emotion is the fuel that gets the engine running, but strategy is the roadmap that gets you to the destination. Too many people confuse the spark for the flame. They get fired up in a moment, take a leap without looking, and wonder why everything falls apart. They think intensity is enough. It's not. Emotion can push you, sure. But without a plan, without clarity, it can just as easily pull you into chaos. The truth is, emotion is like weather. It changes, it shifts, it comes and goes. But strategy? That's architecture. It's deliberate, it's measured, and it's designed to last. Think about the times in your life when you let your emotions take the wheel. Maybe you said something you regret. Maybe you walked away from something because it got hard. Maybe you jumped into something because it felt good in the moment. That feeling didn't last, but the consequences did, didn't they? The relationship that fell apart. The opportunity you blew. The time you wasted chasing a high instead of building a foundation. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can break it. And once you break it, you can start to live with intention. Living by emotion alone is like building a house on sand. It might look good from the outside, but one storm and everything crumbles. Strategy is what keeps your life standing when everything around you shakes. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. Emotion says, I want this now. Strategy says, I'll build it brick by brick and make sure it lasts. That's the difference between temporary success and lasting impact. One burns out, the other builds up. You don't need more emotion, you need more execution. And don't get me wrong, emotion has a place. It makes you human. It gives your mission heart. But heart without structure is just chaos wrapped in passion. You need both, the powers in the balance. Use your emotion to light the fire, but let your strategy be the compass. That's how greatness is built. Not by people who feel everything, but by people who know what to do with those feelings. Who feel deeply, but act wisely. That's power. That's control. That's leadership. When you lead with strategy, your emotions don't get silenced, they get channeled. That anger, use it to fuel your discipline. That heartbreak, let it sharpen your focus. That joy, let it motivate your consistency. But never let those emotions drive your decisions. Because feelings will always fluctuate, but strategy stays rooted. It keeps you moving in the right direction even when the mood isn't there. Especially when the mood isn't there. That's when you know you've matured, when your actions are no longer dictated by how you feel, but by what you know needs to be done. People who build legacies don't make emotional decisions. They make strategic ones. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. When to act and when to observe. When to walk away and when to double down. That's wisdom. That's growth. And that's the difference between living on impulse and living with purpose. You want to change your life. Stop chasing highs and start building systems. Stop riding emotional waves and start mastering patterns. Because emotion might make you move, but strategy is what will make you win. Reacting is a default setting. It's what happens when you don't take control. Something goes wrong and you explode. Someone criticizes you and you shut down. Life disappoints you and you spiral. That's reaction, instant, unfiltered, emotional. That response elevated, that's what happens when you pause, breathe, assess, and then choose your move. It's power in stillness, it's control in chaos. Responding doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you don't let your feelings control the outcome. That's where the strong separate themselves from the scattered. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. When you react, you're giving away your power. You're allowing the external to dictate your internal. Someone triggers you and they control you. A situation stresses you out and now it owns you. You say things you regret, do things that don't align with who you are, and justify it all by saying, I was just emotional. But here's the truth, being just emotional is a choice when you refuse to pause. Life will test you. People will push your buttons. Pressure will rise, that's a guarantee. But whether you act out of instinct or intelligence, that's up to you. There's nothing noble about being reactive. It doesn't make you real, it makes you unreliable. In business, in relationships, in life, reactive people are unpredictable. You never know who you're getting. One day they're calm, the next day they're explosive. And eventually people stop trusting them. They might be passionate, but passion without direction is dangerous. It burns bridges. It destroys progress. You want to be taken seriously, master your reactions. Be someone who sees the storm coming and responds with precision, not panic. That's the kind of person the world follows. Responding requires a higher level of emotional intelligence. It's not about suppressing your feelings, it's about mastering them. You feel anger. Good, don't deny it, but learn to understand it. Ask why it's there. What's the real issue? What's the outcome you actually want? That's what a strategic person does. They don't let the emotion hijack the moment. They use it as information, not instruction. They know the difference between a reaction that satisfies the ego and a response that serves the mission. And they always choose the mission. The power in response is that it buys you time to think. Reaction is fast, reckless, and usually messy. Response is calculated. You analyze, you assess, you ask, what is the smartest way to handle this? Not the easiest, not the most dramatic, the smartest. That's strength. Anyone can react. Children react. The wise take a beat, and in that pause, they reclaim their power. That pause is where the future is shaped. That pause is where your next level is decided. 1 second of silence can save you from years of damage. Strategic response is a weapon. It protects your goals. It preserves your peace. It builds your reputation. When people can't rattle you, they respect you. When you don't flinch in chaos, you gain influence. And when you respond with intention, not impulse, you become the one in control. Not of others, but of yourself. And self-control, that's the highest form of strength. In a world addicted to reacting, the one who responds leads. The one who responds wins. The one who responds writes the rules. Discipline is the quiet force that separates those who wish from those who win. It doesn't shout. It doesn't seek applause. It simply shows up. While emotion comes in waves, highs of motivation, lows of doubt, discipline stays consistent. It's the decision to wake up and do the work, not because you feel like it, but because it needs to be done. It's easy to be driven when you're excited. It's easy to take action when you're inspired. But the question is, can you move when the fire is gone? Can you commit even when the feeling has faded? Because that's the level where champions are made. Emotion is seductive. It makes you believe you're unstoppable until it's gone. And when it's gone, so are most people's efforts. Discipline is different. It doesn't rely on mood. It relies on structure. It says, this is the plan, and we stick to it. Not just when it's fun, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, boring, or thankless. That's the moment where most people tap out. They confuse excitement for commitment. They confuse feeling good with doing good. But anyone who's ever built anything worthwhile knows discipline is the true driver of growth. The world romanticizes passion, hustle, and emotion. But the truth is, those things are only as strong as the discipline behind them. You can have all the passion in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to follow through, it dies in the idea phase. Discipline doesn't care how inspired you are. It only cares about whether you execute, whether you hit your goals, whether you show up every single day. Because consistency isn't built on hype, it's built on habits. And habits are born out of discipline, not emotion. People who rely on emotion to take action live life like a roller coaster. One day they're up, the next they're crashing. They depend on external validation, perfect timing, or magical inspiration. But life doesn't hand out success to people who wait to feel right. It gives it to those who move anyway. Discipline doesn't check the weather, it gets up in the rain. Discipline doesn't look for motivation, it becomes the motivation. That's how you create momentum. Not by reacting to how you feel, but by anchoring your identity in what you've committed to. And let's be honest, discipline doesn't always feel good. It's uncomfortable. It's repetitive. It demands sacrifice. But it's also freeing. It frees you from the emotional roller coaster. It frees you from needing permission. It builds a version of you that can be trusted. Trusted to lead. Trusted to perform. Trusted to finish what you start. When you're disciplined, you become reliable to your own goals. You stop abandoning yourself every time things get hard. You stop betraying your future for a temporary emotion. That kind of self-trust, that's priceless. Discipline is the voice that says, do it anyway. Tired? Do it anyway. Unmotivated? Do it anyway. Doubting yourself? Do it anyway. They confuse feeling good with doing good. But anyone who's ever built anything worthwhile knows discipline is the true driver of growth. The world romanticizes passion, hustle, and ocean. But the truth is, those things are only as strong as the discipline behind them. You can have all the passion in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to follow through, it dies in the idea phase. Discipline doesn't care how inspired you are. It only cares about whether you execute, whether you hit your goals, whether you show up every single day. Because consistency isn't built on hype, it's built on habits. And habits are born out of discipline, not emotion. People who rely on emotion to take action live life like a roller coaster. One day they're up, the next they're crashing. They depend on external validation, perfect timing, or magical inspiration. But life doesn't hand out success to people who wait to feel right. It gives it to those who move anyway. That voice is what makes the difference between people who get close and people who cross the finish line. It's not about doing what's easy, it's about doing what's necessary. Emotion might get you noticed, but discipline gets you remembered. Emotion gives you flashes of energy. Discipline gives you a legacy. That's the power of showing up when it's the last thing you want to do. That's where greatness begins, not in how you feel, but in what you do anyway. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that feelings fade, but the consequences of your decisions last. In the moment, excitement feels like certainty. It tricks you into thinking you're ready, thinking this is it, thinking now is the time. But emotions are impulsive, they're not rooted in logic, in planning, in reality. They respond to the now. Strategy, on the other hand, is built for the future. It doesn't chase moments, it builds momentum. It looks beyond the thrill of today and into the purpose of tomorrow. That's why the people who rely only on their feelings often burn out. Because feelings give you a head start, but strategy gets you across the finish line. Look at the people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable, who win quietly, consistently, with precision. They don't live off emotion. They live off structure. They don't wait to feel inspired. They built a system, a plan, a routine that carries them when the emotions are gone. That's strategy. It's the decision to replace chaos with clarity, to trade spontaneity for sustainability. Emotion gives you sparks. Strategy gives you systems. It's the invisible force behind every long-term win, the roadmap that turns passion into progress. There's this myth that you need to be emotionally driven every day to do something great. That if you don't feel it, you shouldn't do it. That's a lie. Real power is found in doing the work regardless of how you feel. That's the discipline strategy demands. Some days you'll feel electric. Other days you feel numb. Strategy doesn't care. It's designed to function whether you're riding high or feeling low. That's what makes it effective. It doesn't fluctuate with your mood, it carries you through it. That's the stability most people are missing. You can get swept up in a feeling and start something incredible, but if you don't have a strategy, you'll never finish. How many people have you seen chase a dream with wild energy only to quit the moment it gets real? Because emotion isn't built to endure discomfort. Strategy is. Emotions is, this is hard, maybe I should stop. Strategy says, this is hard and that's exactly why I keep going. Without a plan, even the strongest passion can die. But with a strategy, even small actions can grow into something unstoppable. Strategy isn't just about long-term planning, it's about building habits that keep you aligned when life throws you off course. And it will. There will be setbacks, rejections, failures. And when they hit, emotion will scream, give up. But if you have a strategy in place, something greater kicks in: resilience. Strategy helps you recalibrate. It reminds you why you started. It gives you a framework to fall back on, not just when things go wrong, but especially when they do. It's not just a map, it's an anchor. It keeps you steady when the emotional waves hit hard. Feelings may start the journey, but strategy sustains it. The work you put in when you're not feeling it counts the most. That's when you're tested. That's when you're shaped. Strategy turns motivation into discipline, and discipline into results. It's the blueprint that allows you to show up day after day, rain or shine, with or without applause. Because in the end, greatness is not about how high you felt, it's about how consistently you moved, how intentionally you built, how strategically you endured. The moment you let your moments make decisions for you. You've handed over your power. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. When you let anger decide what you say, when you let insecurity decide what you do, when you let fear decide where you go, you are not in control. Your emotions are. And the problem with that, emotions don't think long term. They don't ask, will this help me grow? Or does this align with my goals? They just want to feel better right now. But instant relief often leads to long-term regret. That's the price of emotional decision making. It feels good now, but it costs you later. You've probably been there before, snapping at someone you love, walking away from something just because it got uncomfortable, investing your energy into people or projects that had no place in your future, all because it felt right in the moment. That's the trap. Emotional decisions often disguise themselves as truth when in reality they're just reactions. They don't come from clarity, they come from chaos. And when you move from chaos, you don't move forward, you move in circles. Stuck in cycles of drama, disappointment, and distraction. Clarity isn't found in emotional noise, it's found in stillness. You can't make strategic choices when your mind is clouded by the storm of your feelings. You have to learn to pause, to observe your emotion without obeying it, to say, I feel this, but I won't move from this. That's power. That's maturity. That's how leaders are made. Not because they don't feel, but because they've learned to feel deeply without reacting recklessly. They weigh the costs. They think ahead. They delay gratification in favor of legacy. because they understand that one emotional decision can destroy what took years to build. People often think they're following their intuition when really they're following their emotion. There's a difference. Intuition is calm, wise, quiet. Emotion is loud, urgent, impulsive. One pushes you toward growth, the other pushes you toward comfort, and comfort is the enemy of change. So if you want to evolve, you need to stop making decisions based on how you feel and start making them based on who you're becoming. What does your future self need? What aligns with the vision, not just the moment? That's where the real answers live, not in the heat of the emotion, but in the strategy of your mission. The people who win long term are the ones who know how to slow down their reactions and speed up their self-awareness. They don't let their emotions hike at their values. They don't build businesses, relationships, or dreams on shaky ground. They ask better questions. Not how do I feel right now, but what matters most in the long run. That shift in thinking changes everything. It changes how you show up, how you respond to pressure, how you navigate conflict, and how you make decisions that last. Because emotional decisions might feel bold, but strategic ones are bold. They are grounded. They are enduring. And their bare ability to delay an emotional decision could be the very thing that saves your future. In a world that glorifies follow your heart, there's something revolutionary about following your plan. About choosing alignment over excitement, substance over sparks, depth over drama. When you train yourself to act with strategy, not impulse, you stop living at the mercy of your feelings. You start leading your life like a visionary, not a victim. And that mindset, that shift, it's not just empowering, it's unshakable. The truth is, emotions are fleeting. They rise, they fall, and often they lie. One moment you feel like you're on top of the world. The next you feel like giving up. That's the nature of emotion. It's temporary, unpredictable, and often unreliable. But strategy is stable. It's intentional. It's rooted in vision, not feelings. That's why the people who build empires don't chase moods, they follow plans. Because when you're serious about success, you don't wait until you feel ready. You move with direction even when you don't feel a thing. Emotion might inspire action, but strategy ensures execution. Moving with emotion might get you noticed, but moving with strategy is what gets you results. Anyone can make noise, anyone can post, shout, hustle, or react in a burst of emotional fire. But that kind of movement is random. It lacks aim. And movement without direction is just wasted energy. Strategy is the difference between running in circles and making progress. It's about asking the right questions. Where am I going? Why does this matter? What's the smartest move here? Emotion rarely asks those questions, it just wants release. But strategy demands discipline, clarity, and vision. That's how winners move. In every area of life, career, relationships, personal growth, the most successful people aren't the ones who feel the most. They're the ones who plan the best. They don't jump at every opportunity just because it excites them. They measure, they evaluate, they ask, does this serve my purpose? That's what separates the reactive from the intentional. Strategy says no to good things to make room for great things. Emotion says yes to everything that feels good in the moment, regardless of the long-term cost. And that's how people stay stuck, always moving, never advancing. You have to understand every decision you make, every move you take is either building your future or sabotaging it. When you move with emotion, you let temporary feelings write permanent chapters. You quit too soon. You commit too fast. You chase validation instead of vision. But when you move with strategy, you're building with bricks, not sand. You're thinking in decades, not days. You're leading your life, not reacting to it. That's the shift most people never make. They think they're making progress, but they're really just spinning the wheel of emotional decisions until they decide to move differently. Moving strategically means you're no longer triggered by pressure, you're trained for it. You don't get swept up by every failure or thrown off by every win. You're steady. You're focused. You know exactly what you're building, and every move you make is aligned with that vision. That's not cold. That's mastery. It's what allows you to last when others fade. It's what turns potential into performance. Emotion will push you to rush. Strategy teaches you patience. And patience, when it's backed by a powerful plan, becomes a weapon. Not everything needs a reaction. Some things need restraint, redirection, or complete silence. And here's the most powerful part: when you master strategy, you own your life. You don't just hope things work out. You make them work. You don't follow the energy of the room, you set it. You become intentional with your time, your attention, your words, your investments. Every move has weight, every action has purpose. You stop making random decisions and start creating calculated results. Emotion gives you passion, but strategy gives you power. And in a world that moves fast, the one who slows down, thinks clearly, and acts with intention is the one who wins. Every single time. The enemy of greatness isn't always failure. Sometimes it's distraction. In a world flooded with noise, temptation, and urgency, staying focused has become a rare superpower. Everyone's moving, scrolling, posting, reacting, responding, but how many are moving with intention? How many are moving with a clear target in sight? Most people aren't. They're pulled in every direction by emotion, by trends, by what feels good in the moment. But if you want to build something that lasts, something real, you have to cut through the chaos. You have to silence the noise and zero in on what matters. Because not every movement is progress. Not every action is alignment. We live in an attention economy, and your focus is the most valuable currency you own. What you give your attention to grows. And what you allow to steal your attention steals your potential. It's not just about time management anymore, it's about energy management. Every time you let your emotions drag you into unnecessary drama, distractions, or mindless activity, you're wasting the fuel that was meant for your future. Focused people aren't boring. They're strategic. They've decided that not everything deserves a reaction. Not everything earns their presence, and not every battle is worth fighting. Emotion wants to chase everything. It wants to please everyone. It wants to say yes to everything that feels good right now. But focus knows how to say no. No to distractions. No to detours. No to drama. Not because it's cold, but because it's committed. When you know your path, when you know your mission, every yes becomes sacred. You don't waste it. You don't dilute your energy by being everywhere, doing everything, proving something to people who don't matter. Focus is power in its purest form. And it's not accidental, it's chosen, protected, and trained every single day. One of the most dangerous things emotion does is confuse urgency with importance. Just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it's valuable. Just because someone else thinks it's a priority doesn't mean it should be yours. Focus teaches you to separate noise from necessity. It helps you discern what truly moves the needle and what's just movement for movement's sake. Without focus, you end up busy but broke, active but lost, tired but unfulfilled. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what actually matters. Emotion reacts. Focus decides. Protecting your focus means protecting your environment. You can't expect to stay aligned if you're constantly surrounded by chaos. That includes your physical space, your digital space, and especially the people around you. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Some people are emotional tornadoes pulling you into their storm, their drama, their distraction. And the more time you spend managing them, the less time you have to manage you. Focused people build boundaries. They guard their peace. They don't chase approval, they protect progress. Because they know every minute wasted on the wrong thing is a minute stolen from the right thing. The deeper you focus, the clearer everything becomes. You stop second guessing every move. You stop bouncing between options. You stop craving instant gratification. Because your eyes are locked on a vision that's bigger than the emotion of the moment. And that's when things start to shift. You become calm in chaos. You become precise in pressure. You don't chase, you build. You don't react, you lead. That level of focus is magnetic. It pulls results, it pulls respect, it pulls power. Not because you're lucky, not because you're emotional, but because you've trained yourself to move differently. To move with focus, to move with fire and direction. S. Oh, here's the truth: if you want to rise, you have to rise with strategy. Emotion might give you fire, but strategy gives you form. Emotion may spark the idea, but strategy builds the empire. You can't build a legacy reacting to every mood, every doubt, every fear. You have to lead your life with clarity, with discipline, with intention. Stop letting temporary feelings make permanent decisions. Stop giving away your power to whatever's loudest in the moment. Your vision deserves more than that. Your future demands more than that. Don't just move. Move with strategy. That's how you stop surviving and start dominating.